Hi, I'm Maggie. Thank you for stopping by Crafts the Charm today. You are most welcome here. This video is scheduled to be released on December 24th, Christmas Eve. And if you celebrate Christmas, you're busy today. Also, Merry Christmas to you. I thought that today would be a great day to do crafts with Christmas cards. And the reason is, first of all, we're coming to the end of the Christmas season, and what are you going to do with all of your beautiful cards? I thought that today would be a nice day to look through the cards and reflect on the people who can't be with you today. I also thought that maybe somebody in the household would need something to do, or maybe would need a relaxing activity. So I have a few things put together that you can do with Christmas cards and white glue, maybe a few other materials that you have around the house. Let's go have some fun.
For these projects, I'm mostly going to use some cards that I purchased but haven't sent. And I did buy these 2 sets of thank you cards at the Dollar Tree for $1 each, because I liked the colors, and I thought that we might want to have a nice metallic gold or metallic red in some of these projects. So for the first project, we're going to make one of those classic Christmas balls, and I say classic because we had one in my house when I was growing up. To do this, we're going to cut 20 circles from our Christmas cards, but you may wish to cut more than 20 circles so that you can pick and choose which circles you use and how you put them together to create whatever overall effect you want to create with yours. Now I'm going to use a compass to draw the circle, and I've chosen a diameter of about 1.5 inches, which means I'm going to set my compass to about 3/4 of an inch, the radius of the circle. And I'm going to draw 2 circles. One is going to be the circle that I use as a pattern or template for the circles that I cut out of the cards. And the other is the one that I'm going to inscribe an equilateral triangle in, and we're going to use this to fold our cards to make flaps that we can glue together. So to make the equilateral triangle inside the circle, after I've drawn the circle with the compass, I put the point of the compass anywhere on the circumference of the circle, and I draw a semicircle that goes through that center point. Now I can draw a line from each of the points where that semicircle meets the circle. That will give me the base of my triangle. I can then draw a line down the middle of the circle by lining up the 2 points, the one on the circumference and the one in the center. Draw a line. And then I can draw lines from the edges of the line I drew at the bottom to the point at the top, and that will make an equilateral triangle. The one that I did here, because I did it on camera and sort of far away from me, is not that neat. Later, before I cut out most of my circles, I did a neater equilateral triangle that I could be a little more careful with. Once you have your circle, put it on the back side of the card if that is easier to see. Trace around it and then cut out, as I said, at least 20 circles. With the triangle, put it on the right side of the card and then fold up the sides of the card around it. So you're going to get a triangle with 3 flaps, as you can see here. And now we're going to glue those together in clusters of 5. So I'm using white glue, and I'm also using these little clothespins and these little clips, paper clips, and other office supply clips to hold those little flaps together while the glue dries. It really doesn't take very long for white glue to get dry enough that you can remove these clips and clothespins. So make 3 of these clusters of 5 circles each. That will be 15 of your circles. Now once those are dry enough that you can remove the clips, glue them together, and you will find that you have a cluster of 4 circles. Take one of your other circles and glue it between them so that you get a new cluster of 5 circles. And you're going to continue this until you have a ball. The key with making the ball is you will always have clusters of 5 circles together. So if you apply that principle as you glue the pieces together, you will make a complete ball. Now, one thing that I did was I did want to put a little cord in there to hang the ornament, and I have this little gold cord, more of a thread really, that came with one of those tubes of ball ornaments from the Dollar Tree. So I am just tying that together at the ends and gluing it inside the ball before I put my final 2 pieces on the ball. The other thing that you might want to consider is leaving one flap or maybe a couple of flaps unglued in case you want to insert a light into the ball. And you can use either a battery operated LED set of lights and insert them, and I would have the batteries outside, maybe resting in the tree. Or if you put the ornament close to your tree lights, you could insert a tree light into the ornament, and it will give it a really pretty glow. The other thing I decided to do with this ornament was I thought I would dress up the edges, those flaps that are glued together, with a little bit of glitter. And I have some glitters, most of them seem to be colors mixed together, so I decided to use a white glitter that I have that looks somewhat like snow. And to do this, I put glue on the edges of the ball, and then I put the glitter on a sort of nonstick surface and dipped the ball into the glitter, but you can also sprinkle glitter over the glue. I just thought that dipping it might be a little bit less messy. Now for our second ornament, we're going to do a little bit of origami. And for origami, you usually want to start with a square. So I'm going to be cutting 2-inch squares out of my cards. And some of the squares that I'm cutting are the back of the card, which will give me white squares, and I thought that would be a nice contrast to the colored squares that I'll get from the front of the card. Now I'm going to do my best to give you the origami instructions, but you can also watch and see what I'm doing as I describe this. So lay your square down with the patterned side down, and you're going to fold from corner to corner, so diagonally. And then you're going to fold across the other diagonal, but this time you're going to fold with the wrong side out. So the first time you fold it over so that you can now see the right side of the card. This time you're going to fold it the other way across the other diagonal so that you can see the wrong side of the card. Now with it folded so that you have a triangle where you're looking at the wrong side of the card on both sides of the triangle, you're going to fold the points in toward the center, toward that long base. So now you'll have a shape where you can see 2 small triangles of the patterned part of the card. Now unfold it so you have now a square with the 2 sides folded in. And this is probably the trickiest fold, and we're going to do this one 4 times. So starting at the middle of those folded in triangles, but on the edge, you are going to take the bottom of the triangle and fold it towards the center. And this is going to have the effect that you're folding up the card so that the colored side will match the other triangle. And you're going to do that 4 times, so on either side of your triangles on both sides of the piece, and unfold each time. So again, we're making creases that we're going to use in a minute. Now that we have those creases on each end where we can still see the wrong side of the card, we're going to fold them in, but have the center pointing up. So the center of the card will be sticking up. You'll have a little point, and you'll do that on both sides. Once you've done that, you fold the original triangle points to the back, and you get a little sort of V shape, or maybe it's an arrow shape. And these can be used to create a little paper chain. And we're going to do something a little different with them, but I'll also show you how to make the little chain. So to make the little chain links, what you can do is take 2 of your V's and have the sort of the wings of them in towards each other, and one will slip into the other. And to make it secure, use some glue, and then I would also clip it and let that glue dry. I think it would make a very pretty chain, especially as I have it here with alternating white links with the links that are the right side of the card, so the pretty colors. But I also noticed that those little V's look a lot like a star in a patchwork quilt, So I thought that I would glue them together and make a little star. And it is a little tricky to glue them together because we're gluing edge to edge. But what I then decided to do after I glued it together, and I did use a little tape to hold it together, was to put some ribbon around the edge of it. And I did use hot glue for the ribbon. I also did glue another one of those little cords in the middle of it so I could hang it on a tree. But I think that you could leave it without an edge, or you could also use a little bit of paint or glitter on the edge. Now, if you want to make a chain, after you've glued your links together so that you have individual links, you glue the pieces of the chain together as well. And these can also slip into each other, so put glue in there, slip them together, and then clamp them. And you can see I've done that with the white links. For our third craft, I thought it would be fun to make a little house out of the cards. And you could make an entire little village out of these cards, and it could be very pretty. I decided to make one house, and so what you do to make a house is measure the same distance if you want the house to have a square base, or measure a distance, say an inch, for the front, and then a distance for the side, say 2 inches, and then you measure the front distance again, an inch, and then the side distance again, 2 inches, and then measure up however tall you want your house to be, cut that out, and fold on your lines. If you're using white glue, you'll want to put a flap on one end that you can fold over and glue to make the house secure. And then if you want to have a little pointy roof, every other, so for 2 of your boxes, you're going to put the same size little point over the box. What I did here was I picked a height for that, and then I measured halfway. So if mine was, it looks like 1.5 inches, I measured 3/4 of an inch across and made that where I drew my line for the point. Now we're going to have to cut some roof tiles too after we do this, and you can see I had added a little flap on the end. Now once I had that prototype made, which I made out of a cereal box, I figured out how big I wanted my roof to be. So you want the roof usually to overhang a little bit, both on the sides and below the roof a little bit. So once you have your little house assembled, you can measure the size of that roof piece and then add a little bit for your overhang and double it. Maybe add a little bit more for that fold in the middle, and then cut out that piece and bend it over your house. Make sure it's a size that you like. So I did want to work out all of the measurements and the pieces before I put it on my card to make sure that I was able to put it over the best parts of the card, or the parts of the card that I wanted the most for each piece. So then I just did that, traced around it, and cut it out. It's easiest to draw on the inside of the card, so on the inside I drew a door and some windows, and I cut them out with my knife. And I only did them on the front, but of course you could do them on any side. I also cut a little hole in the back because I anticipated putting a Christmas light in there from my tree so that it could shine inside the house. And then I just used glue to glue it together. I cut another little strip and folded it to make a chimney. So I cut a little strip and I folded it in 3 places, glued it together, cut a little triangle out of the bottom of 2 sides so that I could make a little chimney for the house as well. I have actually just a cotton ball here, and I decided that I would glue that to the top and also around a base. So I just cut another piece and glued it down as a base, and then I glued the cotton ball around the base. And I don't think I show it here, but I also glued it under the windows as if they had a sill, and over the door as if it had a lintel. Now for our next craft. We're going to make some paper beads, but we're going to make them out of our Christmas cards. And this is a stiff material for rolling beads, but it works really well and gives you a nice firm bead. So you're going to pick a width for your beads. Here I'm picking 1 inch, so it's going to be the width of the base of the bead. And I'm just cutting my card up into 1-inch strips. And then for each of those strips, we're going to make a triangle. So I'm taking my straight edge and putting it from the top left corner to the bottom right corner, and I'm just cutting along that straight edge to make triangles. Now I use a bamboo skewer and I begin rolling at the long part of the triangle, and then once I've rolled it up a little bit, I put glue along the rest of the triangle and continue rolling. You want to keep the point of the triangle at the center of your bead. Now, because these are fairly stiff, I did put a little piece of masking tape at the end to hold that point down, but it worked really well. The masking tape didn't have to stay on for very long, and once I took it off, they were perfectly rolled and they stayed rolled. So I did get this set of gold beads at Amazon because I thought it would be really fun to string these on a wire with some gold beads between them. But you can see I have some really pretty beads from the cards that I rolled. The blue ones are from the back of one of the cards, and then the front of that card has the blue and silver mixed color beads. Then I also used those red and white and gold cards that I had gotten at the Dollar Tree, and those gave me a nice solid color bead that I thought looked good to break up some of the more patterned beads. So I just mixed up those beads with some gold beads, strung them on a wire, and then at the end just wrapped the wire around the bead at the end. For the blue and white beads, I decided to mix those up with some of these gold beads that I bought at Amazon, but also these tiny little gold ball ornaments that I got at the Dollar Tree, and I thought that made a really beautiful garland. Now for our next craft, I thought we would do something sort of like a mosaic tile, and you don't need very much Christmas card at all to do this one. So I found this coloring page at crayola.com, and I really liked the shape of this ornament. So I cut that out to use as a template, and I traced around it a little bigger than the ornament was because I wanted something a little bit larger than that. I'm using a cereal box here. I cut out 2 pieces of the cereal box and I glued them together. And this step isn't necessary, but I decided to paint both sides of that white. I just thought it would give me a nice base, prettier than the cardboard, but we're not going to see the background, so I don't think that step is necessary. Now then I just cut my Christmas cards into very thin strips and then cut little shapes out of the end of the strips. So really triangles and rhombuses I thought were good shapes for this. But I also had some hole punches, so I did punch out some circles and the stars. The star hole punch, even on paper, was really hard to use, so I only have a few stars there. So I just put glue down, and then I just put the mosaic pieces into the glue. And I did find this was easier to do with tweezers, but I think you could make a much larger ornament and make the pieces larger if you want this to be easy to do with bare hands, or if you have small people who want to do this who don't have the dexterity to do it with the tiny pieces or with tweezers. I thought this made a really pretty ornament, but I did decide that I wanted to put something in between, sort of like a grout between the tiles. So I have this gold puffy paint, and the one that I decided to use is Tulip Metallics Dimensional Fabric Paint in gold. And so I just put that between all of the little pieces of Christmas card, and I thought that that made a really pretty sort of grout look. And then I strung a ribbon through the hole on top so that I could sort of dangle it while I put a little bit of gold around the edge as well. Now for our final craft, you probably know this one. I have this tin and it's full of old cards which I cut up to use as gift tags or just for something pretty to put on a present. So I thought we'll just take that to the next level. I probably did that when I had a young family and I was very busy and I just quickly cut them. In some cases I cut the edges with decorative scissors, but for the most part I just cut up the cards. But we could take time and really put a lot of time and care into each tag by doing some layering and careful cutting. So for the first one I just have this sort of basic green background, which I assume was maybe the bottom of a card or the back of a card. I no longer have the card. And then I have this pretty piece of holly. So I'm going to put that to the side of the card so that there's space to write on the green part. But then I thought it was too plain on the green side, so I cut a little strip of gold from those gold thank you notes and put that on the right. And then I marked equal spaces on the top of the holly piece and punched a hole with my hole punch, and I have this pretty, very thin red or almost burgundy ribbon, and I just tied a bow through that. So I thought that one was pretty. And then for this next one, I have this definitely back of one of my current cards, and then a sort of a darker green back of a card, and then this pretty piece of, it looks like Phragmites, I'm not sure, some sort of grass. And on one of my other cards, I have these silver snowflakes. So because the grass of Phragmites only has silver bordering it on two sides, I thought I would cut some of these silver snowflakes to sort of make up for that on the top. So I just trimmed everything down, and I did use decorative scissors on one side of the very outermost card, and then glued everything together, and then spent some time cutting out 3 of these snowflakes and glued them more to the top corner, sort of falling down over the grasses. And then I had this silver ribbon that I thought was very pretty, so I glued a strip of silver ribbon to the top and to the bottom of the card, and that didn't want to stay glued down, so I did place a nonstick surface and a heavy book over that to hold that down. And here's how the ornaments and the garlands look on my little tree. And here's how the tags look.
So what did you think of our Christmas card crafts? I was surprised at how nicely the Mosaic one came out, and this used almost no card, so you could make a lot of these or you could do a larger one. I thought that that was very pretty, but I think my favorite was this garland with the little balls from the Dollar Tree. What was your favorite? Please tell me in the comments, and tell me if you plan to make them, or I'm sure you've made them before, at least some of them. I would love to hear about them. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up. That tells me that you enjoy this sort of content and I should bring you more. And if you enjoy this sort of content, please subscribe to Crafts the Charm. Thank you for spending time with me today. Take care.